welcome to the latest episode in Westpac Group's Grad Squad podcast series. All of our podcasts have been designed to offer listeners an insider look into our graduate and summer internship programs and bring to light some top tips and advice to set our listeners up for success.
Hello to everyone listening and welcome to today's Grad Squad podcast on application advice, a topic that is at the forefront of final year students' minds right now as grad applications near. My name is Chantal Relevska and I am currently undertaking my summer internship here at Westpac within the Westpac Institutional Banking Tech team. So I'm studying a Bachelor of Commerce at the University of Sydney and I'm in my final year. So like many of you, I'm looking at applications around March this year. So today I feel really lucky to be sitting down with Nat Gibbons, a graduate programs consultant here at Westpac, and Nat will be running through the application process and giving us advice on how we as candidates can differentiate ourselves. So I'm so excited. Thank you for sitting down with me today,
welcome,
Nat.
Welcome, Chantal. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy intern schedule. But no, I think this is great to be able to do. And given you've recently been through the process, it's great for you to be able to relive your experience and maybe offer some tips along the way as well.
Yes, exactly. As you said, I undertook my application process quite recently, so it's all fresh in my mind. Mm-hmm. So for those who don't know, run through the application process.
Yeah. So for our summer internship and graduate programs, it is the same application process. So everyone starts off with an online application, and that is essentially just entering some details, uploading a resume, an academic transcript, and you're good to go. Then candidates will move through a series of online assessments. And then following that, we would ask candidates to complete a video interview. So once a video interview is complete, all successful candidates will then be invited to a half-day assessment centre. And that, in essence, is the application process. It does differ from employer to employer. However, I would say the loose structure of that is generally an end-to-end application process.
No, that all sounds so great. So how about we go through each of the steps and you can kind of give us advice on
definitely.
each of them.
Yeah.
So starting off with the resume, obviously thousands of students apply for positions like these. So how can we enable our resume to stand out from the crowd?
Good question. And this is something I think students ask me all the time, especially at career fairs and reaching out to me on LinkedIn. With a resume, I think it's important, first of all, to be brief. I live by the rule of brief is best. I would say for students out there, be looking at no more than 2 pages on a resume. You have to remember that this is just a snapshot of who you are. You have to remember that you want to leave some things to talk about and extend on at interview. So really a resume should just be a bit of an insight into who you are. Therefore, those 2 pages really is a nice amount to be able to adhere to. I would also say another tip for me, the most important part of a resume is the career objective. This is also known as a personal statement, a career summary, and it usually goes at the top of the resume. So the first thing that somebody would read. This for me is a great snapshot into who somebody is. And it should really, in a couple of lines, just detail who you are, what you're about, your achievements, any skills, and what you're looking to achieve. It will take a couple of goes. Practice makes perfect on this. But if you think about, this is the first line or first paragraph that a hiring manager or a recruiter will see, you definitely want to make impact from the get-go there. So I would say, we could be here all day just doing a podcast on resumes, but I would say just from this, brief is best, and also then that first career objective to get right.
Okay, so what would you say to those students who feel that they don't have any professional experience, so they're not qualified for a position like that?
I have this again, question quite a lot, and I always flip it on the student to say, well, what experience do you have? It doesn't necessarily need to be corporate. It doesn't necessarily need to be paid. A lot of our current grad cohort had community work that they did. They had unpaid work that they did. And a lot of students say to me, oh, but I've just worked in a supermarket or I've just worked in a service station. We need to flip that. It's not just about where you've worked. It doesn't matter necessarily about the organization and the title. It's definitely those set of skills that you learn from that role. And it's about transferring them and trying to highlight them as much as possible. I know you said you only had cafe experience, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with you because I feel like as I've told you earlier, I worked at a cafe before coming here and you learn so many valuable customer service, skills. So any experience is helpful if you just make sure that you outline the skills that you've learned from 100%. That. Okay, awesome. So moving on from resume then, the online assessment, what would you give students, what tips would you give to students for that one?
I think with online assessments, the key really to these is preparation. You really want to set yourself up for success and give yourself enough time. We see this a lot of the time, deadlines approaching, students have multiple, activities going on at uni work, grad applications, and they just don't leave themselves enough time to complete. So my advice would be, once you receive that invite for the online assessment, straight away diarize a time to complete it. You want to give yourself opportune time to allow for things like bad connection. Think of the location that you're completing it in. If you're, for example, at a family home, you've got dogs running around, brothers and sisters, you really want to set yourself up in a quiet location and good connection, and just be able to go through the assessment end to end with as less stress as possible. How did you find your online assessment?
Yeah, no,
experience?
I totally agree with all of that. It gives you 48 hours, I believe, when you get the email. So for me, I made sure I had no one home. I was focused in my own room, giving myself plenty of time, because the last thing you want, as you said, is to leave it to that last couple of hours and then you're stressing.
You want to do yourself justice to be able to give it as good a go as possible. With online assessments, there's no real way to cheat the system. There's no right or wrong way to answer them. But, just to give yourself the best chance, I think it's definitely about that preparation and just setting yourself up right.
Yeah, no, 100%, especially because you can't necessarily prepare and do practice for those.
That's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay, the video interview. So for this one, what would you have to say?
I personally would love the video interview because it's, your first, I guess, touch point with somebody to be able to showcase who you are. How did you go with your video?
Yeah, no, I love the video interview as well, because I feel like you're in an environment that you're comfortable with. So for me, I like being home with no one around so that I can say whatever I feel I need to say without feeling embarrassed. I feel like when it comes to the video interview, you kind of expect what questions they're going to ask you.
Definitely.
So it's just about being genuine, knowing why you want to work for Westpac, and then obviously allowing your personality to shine through.
Well, I will echo all of that you've just said. I think with a video interview, it doesn't come naturally to some people. Talking to a camera, showcasing yourself, that's definitely difficult for some people. So I think in order to give yourself the best chances, really just do a bit of practice. Everybody can set up their phone and, kind of see how you're answering things. Are your answers structured? Are you looking at the camera? Just basic things like that you take for granted sometimes. With our video interview platform, there is an opportunity to do a practice question, so you can get your angles right. You can sort of, make sure your face is, front and center, and make sure the levels of your mic are right. So just kind of doing those general sense checks is the first step. But I think as well, you mentioned about being genuine. And I think that's one of the biggest things with a video interview, is that we want to see your personality shine through. And we want you to do this through, selling your experience, highlighting your achievements. So, I think definitely try and showcase the real you. But also I would say as well, definitely do a bit of research. One of the questions, a lot of employers will touch on is that motivation piece. Why do you want to come and work for that organization? And why have you chosen to, launch your graduate or internship career with that company? And it's definitely good to have some, prepared responses in terms of research on the company, but also points in your repertoire that you feel align with that company. So, there's a fine line between being over prepared, but also to be genuine. So I think it's just finding that balance, and you'll only do that through practice. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. I think it's so important to be prepared, and you want to make the most of that opportunity. You've come so far. You want to take advantage of that and do the best that you can,
definitely.
Really.
Yeah.
Okay, the assessment center. I'm so keen to get your advice on this one, because this was the stage in the application process that I was most apprehensive for. I think a lot of us students, we've never done one of these before, so it's quite nerve-wracking. I myself wanted to pull out a couple of days before.
Gosh, and look, I don't think you're the only person who's ever felt that. I think there's a lot of pressure on students who do get to assessment center stage, because it generally is the last step of an application process. What I say to students in terms of advice is to just kind of take a moment and just think of what you have achieved. You've come through a no doubt competitive application process to get to this last step. So give yourself a bit of credit. The business clearly have faith in you, that they know that you're able to do the job. So now really it's over to you and your time to shine, really, to actually put your best foot forward and showcase the real you. I know with our assessment centers, well, I like to think, it's a very informal, relaxed setting. And between the activities that we run, there's opportune time to actually network with the other assessment centre participants. We have current grads there to be able to network with the students. The grad team are there. So all in all, it's a great networking experience, if anything else. Hopefully that's how you found it too.
Yes, no, I was, as I said, very nervous before coming to the assessment centre, but it was smaller than I expected. So in my head, I thought there was going to be, 100 kids there or something. I was quite intimidated, but it was a more intimate group, so it felt less stressful once there. And I actually met one of the boys in my assessment centre group. I met him on the day, and then we became close friends through the internship.
Oh, no way.
So I'm a testament for that. It's a great experience to meet new people,
Definitely.
get along with one another, and just, as you said, make the most of it. Try not to get so bogged up by nerves.
Yeah. And I think nerves do naturally play a part during an assessment centre stage. Of course, we spoke earlier about that added pressure, but I think you just have to remove that stress element if you can from the day and just try and see the activities for what they are. Obviously, with an interview, for example, I always say an interview is a conversation, not an interrogation. The assessors definitely aren't there to slip you up and try and catch you out. It's really just, again, that conversation piece about building rapport, understanding who you are, what you can bring to the organisation and the role, and the ability for the student to ask some questions as well. I feel this is really important and a top tip because it just shows that you've proactively done your research, you're interested in the role, and you can actually flip it on the assessor and actually gain some maybe inside information that wouldn't be available on the website. So I'd say definitely with an interview is ask some questions. For you in the assessment centre, what activity were you most nervous about?
I think I'd have to say the group activity I was most nervous for, just because I felt like everyone was so intelligent. I felt a bit intimidated. And I guess with me in the individual interview and the individual activity, you kind of feel like, oh, if I make a mistake, it's okay, no one sees, but in the group activity, everyone's there. But I think that's also a point of benefit because you can bounce ideas off of one another and really help each other.
Definitely. And I think with the group, it is important to say that a lot of people panic about this because they think, how am I going to make myself shine in this group environment? And what I would say is, if you're not a natural leader, don't try and assume that position straight away. It's not natural for you. You won't be comfortable, and therefore you won't be showcasing the real you. So what I say to students who maybe, don't have that kind of overtly leadership style to their personality, think about other ways that you can actively contribute. It's an assessment at the end of the day, so you need to make yourself heard, but it could be through those non-verbal signs, for example, actively listening, contributing when needed, asking everyone to offer an opinion, offering to take the time, whatever it may be, to show that you're an active participant of that group is just as important as, trying to take on that leadership role. And what I will say as well with the group activity, that it in essence is a simulation of what a real life group project is like. We've all done them at some stage. Students complete group work at uni. We've all maybe had, instances where we've had to collaborate. And as Westpac's, one of our core values, one team, it's important to, to showcase that through something such as the group activity.
No, I feel like my experience is the exact same. And when I was there, I feel like one of the things that you need to showcase is positivity and optimism. And I think that, as you said, once you're there, you know that we can all do the job. So it's about having the right attitude, the right mentality, including everyone, being supportive of other people's ideas, all of the above.
And I think that's important to do. And one thing that I will say as well, sometimes this has cropped up a few times in conversation. A lot of students around the grad application time, it's a very stressful time, and they may be completing multiple applications, they've got their uni work, they've got other commitments. A lot of students tend to come into assessment centres and just think they can wing it, that they'll just read the website and they'll be good to go. My response to this is that yes, you can kind of come in and preempt the questions that you'll be asked. However, I don't feel that you give yourself justice. You don't do yourself justice. This is potentially your one time to shine, to really make an impression with that organization, to actually find out if it's going to be somewhere that you would like to start your career. And I just feel that, in retrospect, you will kick yourself if you actually don't go a little bit above and beyond and be as fully prepared as you can. I know for me that if I'm prepared, I'm a lot more comfortable, and therefore you relax more. So it's kind of just a domino effect, really. If you set yourself up to start with, it's only going to result in a more positive experience all around.
Yeah, no. And I feel like regardless of the outcome, you'll always gain something from the assessment center, whether that be meeting friends, networking, or just knowing how to improve for next time.
Yeah.
So, wow. Thank you so much, Nat. I think that's all we have time for today.
Absolutely fine. Thank you so much. And I think, in retrospect, if you were to think about your application experience, if you would have been able to hear even a few things that we've covered today, I hope that would have been useful for you.
Yeah, no, because I remember at the time I was looking on YouTube for videos for advice on assessment centers. So I 100% would have found this so valuable.
Good.
So thank you for your time.
No, thank you very much, and good luck with all of your graduate applications.
Yes, I feel like all those tips will come in very handy very soon. So hopefully all of those listening have found this quite valuable as well. If you have any questions or comments for us, be sure to visit the website and contact us through there. But that's all we have time for. So we look forward, I'm sure Nat looks forward to seeing all your applications very soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.